Yo, live. Jeremy, we're here.
We are back from the holidays.
Yeah. Did you have a good holiday?
Had some travel difficulties. There was some flight cancellations going on in the Seattle area, but other than that, it was pretty good. Played some games, read some books.
Okay.
All
Love
right.
that.
I got
Love
this
that.
cool infrared temperature reader as a gift, and so I can just like point it over here and tell you the temperature of my dog. He's a nice 84 degrees right now.
Let's go. I love that. Yeah. I see people in the chat asking, what did you read over the holidays, Jeremy?
The main thing I read was Leviathan Falls, the final book in the Expanse series.
Ooh. Fun. Love that. Love that. Okay. Sounds great. Yeah, my holiday was good. I was here at home for the Christmas, and then over New Year we took a little family road trip down to Santa Barbara area, so a little bit south of Santa Barbara, and we isolated in a hotel down there by ourselves, right next to the ocean, and that was phenomenal. Just able to relax a bit, relax as much as you can relax, knowing the current situation of the world. But it was some relaxation happening, just a little bit, and yeah, it was great. So let's not get started. So we're gonna play Pikuniku today. Jeremy, have you heard of this game before?
I own this game on Steam and have for many years and have never played it.
Aha. So I'm gonna play today on Stadia. So for our friends at home, this game is just like a puzzle game with this character with the red feet there. He is seen as a monster by the villagers because they just have this like myth about him, but he's actually just like a regular person who just wants to hang out and relax, but everyone thinks he's a monster. And it's really funny and kind of ironic. And we just answer some puzzles. We solve some puzzles while we do this. And yeah, so I'm gonna play, and Jeremy's gonna, lead the other part of the stream. And we're so happy that you folks are here. What's up, Eric? I see you, Kaylin. What's going on? Guru, Andrew in the building. What's MP complete? You complete me by being here, so thank you for that. And Chow back in the building. Happy New Year. I'm at Happy New Year. Mufid. There's so many people, Jeremy. We got people in the building with us today.
Yeah, we sure do. There's even at least one Angular team member in there, I see.
Oh, yeah, I saw Doug in there, so that's pretty good. All right, so let me know if my audio is coming through. If it's
I'm getting your audio.
All right, awesome.
Yeah. So while we're playing here, feel free to drop any questions you might have in the chat about Angular, about Google, about our work on open source, accessibility, whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
It is.
The early 2000s NBC drama Heroes.
Save the cheerleader, save the world, Jeremy. Come on.
That show had so much potential.
There's one scene from season 1 that one episode. The episode where I can't think of the character's name. I know we got Skylar and then the other Peter. Yeah, Peter and Skylar like finally meet, but the fight takes place behind closed doors, so you don't see how they actually fought.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I mean, just so much potential, and then they just like went off the rails, right?
Yeah. See, that was my biggest disappointment with that show, is that you never got the big climactic showdown.
Mm-hmm. Because that was in the future, like alternate universe, I think, when they ended up fighting, right? Like a hero had them in like an alternate universe, and then, like I said, the big showdown is behind closed doors, so you never know. And then the next season is okay. Then the third season got really weird with the whole circus and guy who could levitate dirt. And then the fourth season, the reboot was not a reboot. They should just reboot that show with new writers. Like
they did. The reboot was also bad.
Oh man. All right. So while we wait for questions, I'm trying to. So this game, the puzzles are not like super sophisticated, like something like you see on a Portal. But right now, like I have to get this guy to go over so I can burn him.
Yeah.
With the laser.
Mark, you might want to turn down your game audio a little bit. It is a bit louder than your voice output.
Okay, so let me figure out how to use a computer and see how to do that because I was wondering how do you change like the audio from like a tab maybe? I'm doing this from Stadia.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean there should still be a volume option.
Yeah.
We do have a question here from Akshay. It says, "Why is Angular documentation asking for a survey?" We just kind of regularly survey our Angular customers every year to find out what people are feeling. We want to know what you like, what you don't like, what you're frustrated with, what you're happy with, so that we can decide what to prioritize over the next year. They follow up saying, are they releasing a new version or shutting down Angular? No, Angular's not shutting down. That's not anywhere in the cards. In fact, we're hiring. We just hired 2 new people in the last couple of months. So team still got plenty to do, and we release a new version every week. We release our major versions every 6 months. I'm still plugging along. We're working away on version 14.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I agree with you.
Yeah.
We can't give the people what they need without hearing what they want. When we make decisions for you, no one's happy. We want to, make decisions together.
Yeah. And so, yeah, some of the big things we're working on right now is standalone components. A step towards making ng modules optional. There you go.
Yeah. That usable, Jeremy?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, great.
Let's see, what are people working on right now? The strict typings for forms, that's an RFC. There's some work going on with that.
You already said standalone components, right?
Yeah, standalone components. That's a big area of work. Let's see, we got a question here. Are there any plans in Angular allowing functional components? Not really, not right now. But there's a caveat to that I'll get to. So we don't have any plans to change Angular's fundamental component model right now, where a component is a class and has state associated with it, and the binding context is that class. However, one of the things we're thinking about, and this isn't a super strong commitment to do this yet, but one of the things we're exploring is the idea of being able to apply directives to host elements of a component, which would give you a pretty powerful composition pattern for bringing multiple behaviors in together onto the same element. Let's see. Got another question here. Any upcoming Angular conferences or events that people should have on their radar, either online or in person? There is nothing in the events tab, and yeah, we haven't been updating that events tab lately ever since COVID started. Mark, you might have an answer to this because I don't actually know. I haven't been keeping tabs on all the events that our talented DevRel have been attending.
Yes. So there are the state of Angular, not state. So there's the state of Angular talks that we're doing with the Angular World Tour with this.labs. So you should definitely know about those things because that's really great. So yeah, this.labs has the Angular World Tour, and then we're going with them around the world virtually to all kinds of meetups and all kinds of places. So that's pretty good. Actually, I did turn it down. I promise. Let me know if it's still too loud. It's turn it down. You're right. And then in terms of conferences, not yet. We don't have any solid dates for conferences yet. You should keep an eye on. Yeah, not that I can know. I could think of. Yeah, that's it for right now. That's a good question though. But that's what I was going to say. For the events tab, we're looking at some new options for the events tab about a better way to keep it up to date and what that could look like. We don't know if it's going to go away, if it's going to stick around, but we're exploring some options. If you have any ideas about what we should do there, I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, and I think as every week passes, there's a new development in COVID, and so live events are just so uncertain anytime in the next year even. So we still don't know, unfortunately. Let's see. Hans asks, is it possible for the compiler to tell users that you have imported an unused module? That is a tough question. The answer is maybe. I think that there are certain things that a module is doing that the Angular compiler would not be able to detect statically just because of, the halting problem. So if you were to have a module that importing that module had side effects, the compiler wouldn't really have any way to detect that, right? So if you had if you had a module that had providers associated with it, and those providers are going to do some kind of initialization work, then it's really impossible for the compiler to be able to detect that that's happening. However, unused components and unused directives might be detectable, but you really shouldn't need to worry about that too much because the optimizations in the Angular CLI production compilation should be removing code that you're not using for components and directives anyway, right? That shouldn't end up in your bundle if you're not using it.
All right, I'm gonna be honest with you. This game is kind of fun once you get past this simplistic UI design. It's pretty fun, but you gotta, you all missed a lot of the storytelling.
Why do you have a spiky face now?
Oh, just because I want to be scary. He has some masks that are just like all cosmetic. But it's just fun to have him on. So this guy in the pink is stealing all of the resources from the town folk, and I'm trying to stop him. But he's tricking them into thinking that he's a good guy, but he's really not. He uses these robots to hurt people or to harm the town folk. See, a new world, a perfect world.
Yeah. So for anyone just joining, Mark here is playing Pikuniku on Stadia. I'll type that in the chat so that it is clear, the spelling. So Mark, what else is the Angular team working on right now that you're excited about?
Oh, you know what? I'm very, very excited about our 2022 content plans the most. And I think that's probably because I work on a lot of this stuff. But that's something that I'm really excited about, what we're going to be doing with content, because I think that when we look at like the YouTube comments, for example, there are lots of comments around, why don't you make a video about this? Why don't you make content about that? And the answer, short is, well, we've made a lot of content in 2020 and 2021, and we're now just starting to get a good feel for what the people want and what you folks want and what's helpful for you. So we have more beginner content to help people who are new to Angular, but then we're also planning some higher level or higher experience level content as well. And we have some really great ideas about that. So that's what's up. That's what I'm really excited about. And then, of course, I think getting strictly typed forms out the door at some point, I think that is really, really exciting because so many people, like that survey somebody asked about earlier, like, why do we do that survey? Because we read those results, right? And I looked at the one from 2020 Q4, and you folks were just like, we want type forms. We want type forms. We want type forms. And now that's coming. So like, I wonder, like, what's that going to open up for our community in terms of development opportunities, and how's that going to make their quality of life better with Angular? And will they be really excited, or will they say, hey, I want something else?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely our most popular issue by far on GitHub as well. And so it's a clear front runner. One of the things I'm excited about is Christian on the team is working on a feature right now that will let people augment the injector for embedded views, which sounds very jargony.
So what does that even mean?
So you know how you have a ng template, and then you can take a reference to that, your template ref, and stamp it out into a template outlet or something similar. You can call create embedded view and basically stamp out that template however many times you want. Well, this feature will let you add new things to the injector for the components and directives inside of that ng template. And it is actually a really powerful technique for being able to hook up connections between different parts of the component.
So who is that feature for, Jeremy? Like, who would benefit the most out of something like that?
Me. No, it's actually really useful for like UI component libraries. In particular, there's some stuff in the CDK that I've been waiting for something like this to be able to do more effectively. So we have a CDK menu that is in our experimental package right now. And the API for it, one of the reasons it's still an experimental is that the API is pretty clunky. And this feature of being able to augment injector for embedded views will make that API simpler so that the person who's using that CDK menu API doesn't have to hook as much stuff up.
See, good stuff coming along the pipeline. Like, I can't wait to see how that turns out.
Yeah, see, Doug says they just develop features for me directly and let others use them. I wish.
Right, I wish. Right. So I have a question for the chat. This is a question for you folks as we go through some stuff. I saw some comments before about mobile and Angular, like mobile development in Angular, and why don't we have something around like React Native before? Like I saw something like that, Jeremy. And the thing that I thought was interesting is there are some third-party solutions that solve this problem for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder I want to hear from the chat people, like, why don't you folks use like native script? Because they support Angular. They were early on supporting Angular for building native tools. And then there's Ionic that does this as well. And they have great stuff. So why do you folks, like what are you looking for that's not provided right now?
Yeah, I personally don't have much experience doing this directly, but I've heard, great things about Ionic.
Mm-hmm. See, that's fun. Look at Rory's question or Rory's comment. I literally just said this. This is exactly what I'm talking about. So you see Rory saying about the native script or similar technologies not being actively pushed forward. Flutter is gaining continuous better support for mobile, web, and desktop. I have a lot of feelings about that, but I'll leave it to you if you want to answer that one, Jeremy.
Yeah. I mean, Flutter is certainly a great solution when you need cross-platform stuff. The thing to always keep in mind with Flutter, though, is for your web experience, the Flutter runtime is always coming along with you. That is kind of re-implementing the browser's rendering engine in user space so that they can render out symmetrically between web and Android and iOS. And so there's a trade-off there when you are dealing with Flutter for the web. The Angular team ourselves, we have just generally always historically focused on web experiences, and that includes mobile web experiences with things like PWAs. And we think that is the best way to invest our resources, and that's where all of our expertise lies. So that's always been our focus area, but we're very happy that there are other third-party projects from not the Angular team who do the native mobile thing, and I don't know that that's going to change anytime soon. Probably because I think those third-party things are doing a good job.
So I have a lot of experience with Flutter actually, and I have a lot of experience with mobile development and web development. So before coming to the Angular team, I was doing all Flutter development. I was trying to build a startup and blah, blah, blah. The typical tech story, right? Trying to build a startup, and I was using Flutter. And I think what Flutter is really great at is if you have a complex UI with like really beautiful animations and you really want that 60 frames per second for that experience, I don't think there is a solution better than Flutter for those types of experiences. So you know how you can go on to Dribble, right? Or one of those UI websites, and they have all these incredible like UIs, and your designer gives you a design. You're like, there's no way we can ever build this. Well, Flutter is the best framework I've ever used that creates that type of experience for developers where they can build those like really wild moonshot UIs. But I think that Angular has a lot going for it in terms of not even just only technology. Think about Angular's position in terms of the knowledge base of Angular, and when you come into a problem, when you build scalable applications, whether it be for mobile web or for web, and now with, like I said, with Ionic and NativeScript, you do have solutions for native web. I'm sorry, native mobile. And so I think about just the bigger picture with Angular, and just web technologies are great. I love the web. I think the web solves so many problems, and I think you can just do a lot of great stuff with just web technology. I think Flutter is great as well, and I think that I would use Flutter for that specific reason. Like I said, if somebody came to me with the UI where CSS animations and design would be harder to do with just web tech, I think Flutter really does extract a lot of that difficulty and makes a lot of that really interesting.
Yeah. And I think ultimately this brings us back to one of the things we talk about every stream, which is it's all good.
Yep. Right. Everything is great.
Right. A lot of people want to ask like, oh, which technology is better or which thing should I use? And the answer is always, they're all good. You can, only you know what's going to be best for your app, and everybody's tastes are different. And so everything is good. Choose the thing that you like the most, or that's going to be the best suited to the application you're building. Yeah.
Agreed.
So looking through some of the other questions here. Question about using Cypress in Angular CLI. That's something you should be able to do already. So if folks haven't been kind of following along on the story of Protractor, is that Protractor was created a long time ago in the AngularJS days, back when integration testing for the web was still relatively immature. And the ecosystem has changed a lot since those days, right? So, back then, there wasn't even a great test runner when AngularJS was getting going, and someone on the team, Voita, created Karma in the first place even to solve this problem. So very different landscape back then. And now, today, there are things like Cypress out there, and Puppeteer, and what's the other thing that's like Puppeteer?
Can't think of it.
They sound really similar, and I always forget one of them. But because that ecosystem has evolved so much, Protractor hasn't really kept up, and it's not really providing that much value on top of other things. And so the Angular CLI has moved in a direction. Yes, Playwright, that's the one.
Playwright, yeah.
So the Angular CLI is moving in the direction where it's more agnostic to your end-to-end system. And when you run NGE2E, it will just say like, oh, you haven't set up end-to-end tests. What technology do you want to use? And then there are schematics for installing different options. So Cypress was one of those options. I don't remember what else is available off the top of my head, but the idea is to make it so that Angular CLI is just kind of it has an empty placeholder for where you can put in your end-to-end test technology, and it won't have any like built-in recommendations or things that it prefers over anything else.
Yeah, agreed. So just a little bit of a game update. Because I'm talking and listening, I'm kind of like not sure. It's like I don't quite remember what I'm supposed to be doing right now, and I'm like, I'm supposed to be doing something. I just don't remember what it is.
Yeah.
So kind of
not great at multitasking, Mark.
Not like this. This is new level. I'm trying to pay attention. Like, what am I supposed to be doing? But I am also mad right now because I think I want to get to this vent that's like blocked by this fan, but I don't know where that turbine control is. So I think I'm just going to go in the elevator until I get stuck, and it'll come back to me at some point.
Mm-hmm. Thing is goofy.
They're making popcorn?
Maybe just someone dropped their popcorn in the furnace.
How's the framework looking? Is it like choppy? Is it smooth?
It seems okay. Like you're definitely getting some artifacting in the background
Oh, sure.
in the stream, but it's not really choppy or anything like that.
All right, great. I'm glad I'm not playing something with like really important background details.
Let's see, we got another question here. Are we planning any improvements or extensions of server-side rendering, whether that's improvements for dev mode or built-in library for image SSR, etc.? We do have some explorations scheduled for 2022 that might turn into something more. In particular, we're going to do some investigation into hydration. So if you are using server-side rendering with Angular already, you probably know that the way it works is it produces a server-side rendered page, and then when the client bootstraps, it just throws away all that DOM and renders it again. And so your server rendered page is not really interactive at all. It reduces user perceived latency because you're getting that UI in front of people's eyeballs more quickly, but that isn't the DOM that you're going to ultimately start interacting with. And so one of the things we're going to be doing this year is exploring what would it look like to do hydration, what changes will we need to make to the framework in order to support that, and similarly for universal. And if that is looking promising, then we'd probably move forward with doing that this year. And that's pretty exciting. Yeah, it's hard to commit to things though, because a lot of things like this, right, we do have to go through that phase of exploration of, what impacts is this going to have on the performance of the framework and on the size of the runtime and the complexity and maintainability of it, right? We only have so many people on the team. Are we going to be, adding more features than we can realistically support and fix bugs for an ongoing basis? And so it's a lot of math to do as we consider stuff like this.
Oh,
oof!
I thought I had to jump on the hammer. And
fell in the fondue.
I got tricked. Man.
So do you just have to not get hit by the laser?
For the first round, right? So it's the standard triple attack, then you have your chance to respond. So I thought I was supposed to jump on a hammer right there, and maybe those were buttons. That is not correct. Yeah, this game kind of reminds me of the type of games. Remember I meant to duck. The Monkey Island adventure games where you have to do things that don't seem kind of, they're not first of mind. I have to take this lollipop to the monkey. Duh. You know what I mean? So a lot of the puzzles in this games were like that, where there's one part where there's a bridge, and the only way to get to the bridge or get across the bridge is to get a spider to weave a web, but you don't know that unless you kick the spider across the gap, and then he gets mad and he spits some wet, right? So it's puzzles like that.
Yeah, unintuitive stuff.
Right, exactly, non-intuitive. There you go. Right. That's exactly right. Ah!
All right, so Eric asks, what requests do we have for the community?
So thoughtful.
Yeah. I think fill out the survey if you haven't already.
Yeah, I got one more. Surveys are great. When we have our RSCs, reply.
Yeah, get in the comments.
Feedback.
Yeah, and just in general, feedback is always good. Yeah, I mean, there's always the old classic standby of, if you want to get involved and start sending pull requests, the team always tries to be open to that. Documentation is always a great place to get started, learning the GitHub workflow if you're unfamiliar with that. Certainly some changes in the framework are rather advanced and require a lot of context on how the framework works, and so that can be a little difficult. But documentation is a good place for anyone to jump in if they want to, get a contributor badge on GitHub.
And Jeremy, don't we have a great first issue label in our GitHub?
Oh yeah, we do have a label on our issues, both on the framework repository and the components repository for good first issue, which is just some minor bugs that someone with not a ton of context on the project could reasonably tackle. Let's see, there's another question here. What do you guys think of storybook and design systems? Let's see. That's a very open-ended question. Storybook, I don't have a lot of opinions on. I think that style of tool of like Storybook for like isolated interaction of things is useful, but it's not something I've actually used myself. I think I'm like maybe a little bit stuck in the past of just building like demo or development apps for things.
Yeah, I don't have any like design system like experience to really draw on, so I answer any questions around that. So I'm not gonna pretend.
So I'll say like I have a lot of experience working with material design as a design system, and so maybe some of the things I'd say are biased based on that. But for anybody who is like working with a design system or creating one, the best advice I can give is to always start off with the accessibility interaction patterns that you're designing around. I think too many people get distracted by thinking about the way things look and not about how the interactions play out. So you shouldn't go into saying, I want to create a design system because I want buttons to look like this and I want checkboxes to work like that. You should go into creating a design system because you want the user experience on your application to be a certain way. And when you start thinking about what are the different patterns in that system, start with the accessibility patterns, right? Because that is so much harder to come back and reapply it later. But if you start with that as your lowest level building block and then start from there, right? And say like, what do, not just buttons, checkbox, radio buttons, but like, how do our tab interactions work? How do our combo box and list box interactions work? And then very importantly, how do we compose those different interactions together into larger experiences? That I think is one of the biggest areas where design systems commonly don't live up to the dream.
You know what didn't live up to my expectations right now, Jeremy? That popcorn that just hit me.
Thought it would be harmless?
Yeah, I did. I literally thought it was going to be harmless. It was not. It was harmful. Just like bad UI design when it comes to accessibility. It can be very harmful. So you should definitely do what Jeremy's saying.
Do you have to like mash buttons on your controller to pedal there?
No, I thought that I did, and I was just having to like keep pace and hold the joystick to the right. And this is like my whole life right now. It looks like I'm very skilled, but I'm really just holding the joystick to the right. But like I said, I think this game was more about the like problem solving and puzzles than it ever was about like actual gameplay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not an action game.
Yeah, no. No, I haven't started my new action game yet. Speaking of games, so my 4-year-old loves the game Dirt 5, but that's a racing sim.
Mm-hmm.
But he's really decent at Mario Kart because of all the like controls they put in place that kind of do like assisted racing and speed and rebounding. And it's really funny to watch him suffer and not understand that he's playing like a sim versus an arcade style. But he's 4, so he doesn't, he just gets upset and cries. And then I'm like, okay, you got to keep practicing. He's like, no, I don't want to practice. You play it. I'm like, yo, I need a steering wheel. I need like a whole setup. And I need to know how to play first. Because racing sims are not my jam. I'm like Need for Speed Most Wanted type of person. Like, I love that type of game. What the heck?
Let's see. So we got another question in here. Eric asks, it's like, you know how you can do ngIf and then equals to some observable through the async pipe, and then say let my observable, which I'm going to show my unfamiliarity with this here. I think it's grabbing a reference to the result of that observable going through the async pipe. Yeah, this is something that I think I've seen requests for as well. There's probably an open GitHub issue for that. So if someone were to go either find the GitHub issue for this and vote it up or create a GitHub issue, that's probably the best thing to do to have a conversation about that. I'm almost certain this has been something that's been brought up before.
Mm-hmm. Wait, I finished. I think this is the end of the game.
Did you just start when we
Oh no. I've been playing this for a little while with my son because he likes this game too. Unbelievable. Okay, so what else? Your score. Okay, let me... So I guess there's this omniscient being that's telling me that my score is 1.6, and we don't know if it's good or bad, and I don't think it matters anyway. So
it's a statement about the universe.
Pretty much. What? So this is an indie game thing where this game is so abstract that it's just kind of we're kind of irreverent. That's the better word. It's so irreverent. It's just we don't give you a real ending. We just do this. Okay, see? Now I'm done. All right. I sent the guy into space, and now these guys are asking me, why did I do that? Thank you for everything. It was nice having you around. Okay, so are we done?
Sounds like you beat the game.
Yay! This is my first Stadia game that I beat so far. I was pretty close on another game, the one about Greek mythology that came out. That was kind of like a Zelda clone. Phoenix Rising. That game was really great, though.
Oh. Hey, Walsum is in the chat. Hey.
Wait, you see that? Here we are, right? We on the chat during the stream, we beat this game. That's because of the power of the community. Let's go.
Yeah, not at all because you had mostly beat it before starting the stream.
No, not at all. Come on.
Have you been using Stadia pretty frequently?
We have. So I have a PS5, and I played the heck out of that thing as I was finishing The Last of Us. And then for Stadia, hey Bobby, what's going on? And then for Stadia, my kid plays it the most because the PWA. See, look at this PWA. This is a true story. The PWA on iPad it runs almost like it's a native app. It is really mind blowing that it works so well because I expected subpar performance just because it's a website trying to stream games, right? It's great. And it runs on an older generation iPad, before the iPad Pros, before all the pen enabled iPads. And he plays quite a few games because I have Stadia Pro, so I get a lot of free games as well each month. It's a pretty good value. It's only $10 a month. So yeah, it's great. It's great. But wait, do I have to play something else since we still have stream time and I'm done with this?
Well, we got 15 minutes left.
All right.
What else do you want to play?
All right. So how do I exit this game? Let's see. All right, exit. Okay. Hold to exit. Is that no? That's not Stadia. Okay, yeah, exit game. Cool. Am I still alive here? Good. My stream is still there. That's pretty good. So I have a bunch of games. So this told you Dirt 5 is number one game. Let me find another game to play. So a Paw Patrol game, high quality family game if you ever needed to know. Definitely high quality.
Oh, yeah.
Steam World Dig. I'm just going to say that if you are a gamer, Steam World Dig is so much fun. So much fun.
I think that's another one I think I've owned for years and have never played.
Oh, it's so good, Jeremy. You got to play this. Somebody asked, they said, "What's this? I'm actually new here." So this is our gaming and like chill session where we just like hang out, game, talk about Angular, answer your questions, and we just literally just hang out and play video games together and just have fun as friends.
Yeah. Let's see. Someone also asked, can the Angular builder be extendable in the near future? I think that's one of the questions that comes up pretty frequently. It is like a major feature to do that in like a really open way, because the Angular CLI is able to do a lot for you because it knows very much about the way your application is built. And so if we move away from that and let kind of just like the doors open wide on being able to configure everything about the build, then it becomes difficult or impossible to do the same level of like tight integrations for certain things. So there's a very big trade-off there. And then there's a question here of whether we have any favorite Angular podcasts. I'll admit I've never actually listened to any Angular podcasts, though I have appeared on a couple of them.
Oh, there is one. Eric Slack, who's actually here, has a great podcast. It's not only Angular, like hardcore about the code, but it's like a good like variety of like topics around like development, Angular stuff. Eric, well, if you're still here, why don't you put your podcast in the chat? I will also look for it real quick, and we'll type it in the chat. But yeah, that's a great podcast. I know Web Rush has by John Papa. Web Rush has some podcasts. Has a pretty good podcast as well. And Angular Air, the OG podcast, of course, which is great.
If you run an Angular podcast, I think folks from the Angular team are generally happy to be on it from time to time.
Heck yeah. We're super happy to come and support. Just got to let us know.
Let's see. There was another question here. Are there any examples of Angular apps built and tested with GitHub Actions? Probably out there somewhere. I don't know that we have any. Like, we use GitHub Actions on Angular itself, on Angular repo. But GitHub Actions are a pretty flexible thing. We use them for a couple of things, but most of our CI is on Circle CI.
Yeah, the Angular Experience podcast. That's the one I was talking about. Yeah, Angular Experience podcast. Yeah, by Eric. That's a really great podcast. I really, really like that podcast.
Hey, Mark, I got a question for you.
Yes.
All right. So say you got a month to just go build whatever kind of application you wanted to build with Angular, right?
Yes.
What would you build?
This is funny because I actually have an idea about what I want to build with Angular. Right now, I want to build an app that allows you to enter all the foods that you've been eating, and then it pulls out common ingredients and like highlights them for you. So that way you can see like what your potential allergens are, right? Like it wouldn't know that those things were allergens, but like you could like mark the food like, oh, okay, I ate an apple today, also had some chicken, and then I also had this other thing, right? And then you say, well, I had a reaction to the chicken, and I had a reaction to the granola bar. And it could like cross-reference the chicken and granola bar ingredients for like your recipe and tell you like, oh, well, these are the common things between both of those things. I would build that if I had a month to just build something.
Nice.
Right, 100%. I know it's very specific. Oh, not as fun, right? But very specific. What about you, Jeremy? What would you make right now?
I would build a Dungeons and Dragons character sheet manager, right? Basically something that lets you have a more dynamic and flexible character sheet that made it easier to track all the things you could do in the game and kind of reorganize all of the boxes on the sheet around change the colors however you want. And then you get into like being able to add in features where your character sheet is communicating with like the rest of the game. So your DM could be like, I need a perception roll from everyone. So they'll like push a button and get that. And then your character sheet will show you like rolling and it'll show up in the little log. I think this is a little bit different than existing things out there like Roll20 and D&D Beyond, where it's the difference I have in mind is like it's more customizable, right? It's more built around like you organize your UI the way you want it, and you've got kind of these decoupled pieces that talk to each other.
We should just build this. Yeah, no, seriously, Jeremy, like maybe we should just stream you building out this D&D. Yo, friends at home, listen, how amazing would this be? That like if a few of you played Dungeons and Dragons, right? Like D&D, we built this thing out and then we actually did some streams playing it while talking about Angular, taking games to the next level. Listen, I'm a visionary, all right? I'm a visionary. So I'm always thinking about that. That could be super cool.
I don't know. We'll see.
I know the commitment to actually building it is what kind of adds the hesitation.
Yeah. See.
Oh, true, Donald. They make a good point. But Marshall had a comment that I thought we want to call out. There's an Angular Discord. We do have one. Go to discord.gg/Angular. Discord.gg/Angular. And Alex is in the building. What's up, Alex? Alex Okushko, it's good to see you. Welcome to the party. No problem at all.
I'll mention that Discord too. The Angular team, we don't moderate that Discord ourselves. That is a community-run Discord, but I think a couple of the team members hang out in there from time to time.
Yeah, great distinction. We do not moderate that. But I know Alex is a part of the Discord, and he's pretty cool. We like him, so. Well, Dave in the building, what's going on? All right, friends, listen, I want to know okay, so for people watching, why don't you answer the question that Jeremy just asked me? What would you build right now if you had a month of free time? I know you folks have full-time jobs and you're busy, but let's just say that for a month, you had your evenings free, no kids, no like relationships to like, take your time up. You can just like write some code at night. What would you make? Type it in the chat. We want to know. What would you make? I'm going to start this Floor Kids game because I'm going to do some break dancing, but I'm going to have to turn the volume down. I'm sure it's super loud. Okay, how do you do this? Down. So that's good.
So that's sound effects volume. Is there there's no music volume.
None.
Try calibration?
Nope. It's not giving me any control over that. Let me try it again. So that's SF. So this is where you talk about like experience. What the heck is happening? Okay. So that's special effects volume.
It is wild that they have a sound effects slider and not a music slider.
That's correct. So calibrate. So this one, you see, it's this is not super accessible either because you can't really tell. But the last one is disabled.
Mm-hmm.
So let me see if I start it. Will it like give me some more stuff? Okay, I'm just gonna pick the first character because I bet this is loud. I'm sorry, I don't care about any of this. Let me just get into the. Okay, sure. Cool story. Floor Kids developers. You need audio controls. Come on. No, okay, I'm just gonna leave this game because it takes too long just to get to the controls to like turn down the volume.
Of a game that was ported from consoles to PC as if they're missing kind of like standard customization options.
Yeah.
Someone said down here, documentation creation tool for Angular. It's funny, Doug and I were actually just talking about that yesterday.
What does that mean?
It would be useful if there was a tool that generated like API reference documentation for you.
Oh, kind of like Swagger?
I don't know what Swagger is.
So for Java, we used to be able to like, annotate your code and then you run Swagger and it would like generate your API documentation.
Okay, yeah, this is like a fancier Java doc.
Right, correct.
Yeah. I think one of the things we ended up landing on is like, yeah, that like probably plenty of community tools out there that do it already.
Mm.
Because we've got our own like homebrew thing that we use for Angular and Angular components, and our homebrew thing is not the most polished technical solution.
Use of tobacco. Okay, that might be. I'll allow use of tobacco. Fine. I don't know if people know that our rules for our stream is that we don't play, really violent games on stream with like blood and guns and stuff. So I was looking at the ESRB rating, like, okay, what's in this game? It's like, say, use of tobacco. I'll allow it. Oh man, this is people. People gonna say, Mark, you stick to moderating next time. Let Jeremy play the games, because when I play games, it is definitely not as eventful. It seems like.
See, I think every time I've played a game here, I've just like started from the beginning of the game every time, so I'm not no risk of running out of content.
Well, what's funny is that the only reason I started from my existing game, because I thought that I was early in the game still. I had no idea that I was at the end. You see anything about audio? Advanced settings?
There you go. Music.
Now look at that. Oh, Marshall, you said somebody come up with an idea for a game. I have so many ideas for games. So one day maybe we'll like do something. Okay, I did it. Confirmed. I changed it. Now, I don't know how to play football. I don't want anybody upset that I'm not doing this right.
You're gonna get in a solid 2 minutes of tutorial here.
Right. All right. Well, can we just appreciate that this game is not installed on my computer, and this is the first time playing it, and we just started playing it immediately. Like, there was no installation period.
Yeah.
Like, I think that part of Stadia is just absolutely like out of this world.
Yeah.
And I mean, all streaming services for that matter. I'm just saying, but like for Stadia, like I don't have a console. This is running in the web browser.
Yeah, I'll say we may be Google employees, but we have no one's telling us to plug Stadia. Mark just likes it.
I really just like this service. I really do. Okay, I don't know what any of this is. Oh no. Yeah, see, I won't even be able to choose anybody before the stream is over. All right, cool. I don't know what any of this means. Yeah. All right, here we go.
All right, what do you got? Can you score a goal in 30 seconds?
I am. Just watch me. Uh-oh, I'm not reading the controls, so let's see what I can do. Cold start. Did it. Okay, hold on, R2. Got it.
All right. Well, so for those of you who tuned in, thanks for joining us and asking questions. If you're watching this in a recording later, leave a comment on the video to let us know if you liked it and what you want to see next time. We'll probably be back in about a month to play another game. I don't know what I'll be playing yet, but I've got such a massive library of games that I'm sure I'll be able to pick something.
Yeah, Jeremy, you can use this as a chance to go through your like massive Steam library and actually get through some of those games.
I haven't played Gris yet. I've had that for a while, or Spiritfarer.
See?
We could always also just start a new farm on Stardew Valley.
Let's go. All right, I'm gonna count that as my goal. That I just kicked it against the wall. That was close enough. All right, yeah. No, this is great.
We should be back in about a month. I think we try to do the first Friday of each month.
Yep.
Is that what we decided, Mark?
That's correct. First Friday.
Right. And then hopefully soon, I'm going to have like a fancy streaming setup, Mark. Maybe in a couple of months.
Let's go. Should we tell them about that? We're going to be having special guests too, as a part of the story.
If we go invite some special guests, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to invite some people. We're definitely going to invite some people, I promise. They're coming, friends. We got special guests on the horizon. So
Right. So I think that's basically our time for the day. We only get to take an hour and play video games during work.
right, right. After that, they're kind of like, "Hey guys, there are things to do." So yeah, I've had fun today. I got to finish a game that was on my 2022 goals list. So yeah, and Marshall, yes, we should definitely buy a domain and not touch it for 3 years about the game we're going to build. So we should do that. That sounds right on brand.
All right. So yeah, see you all next month. I guess that's what you like. It's weird. We won't see you. We'll just see your chat messages, but that's you in essence.
Oh, philosophical. All right, friends. Until the next time, go build great apps.